Then, last of all, there's this reminder, which is really just a reminder of the church's relationship with Christ, which has got to be the biggest, most important thing of all. Let me just remind you. Paul says, I, Paul, write this greeting with my own hand. Then all of a sudden the weather changes. It was like blue skies and partly cloudy, and all of a sudden, whoom, the thunderclouds seem to roll in here. And he says, if anyone has no love for the Lord, let him be accursed. Wow. It's like, that's extreme. Where did that come from? We were happy. We were thinking happy thoughts. And then you had to write this? A curse on those that don't love Jesus? Well, I had all kinds of little question marks around this statement because it didn't seem to fit. But one thing I did find out was that the way this is written, this is not a blanket condemnation on pagans. Like, the worshipers of Apollos. Cursed are them, they don't love the Lord, or the worshipers of Poseidon, or some pagan Germanic tribe in northern Europe. Paul is not pronouncing a blanket condemnation upon those people. It sounds like he's saying this to a group of people that ought to know better. Really sounds like he's saying that. And what he's actually doing, by Paul saying this, he's placing crosshairs on the nature of all the problems in the church in Corinth. He's nailing it right here, right now. A simple absence of self-sacrificial affection for Jesus. All the problems in the world come out of that. You say, well, John, how could you, isn't that kind of reductionistic? I mean, just make it so simple like that? Well, think about it. Jesus was asked one time, what's the most important thing in the Bible? It's almost like you got a picture of the Pharisees standing around him. Well, what's the most important thing in the Bible? And all of a sudden you're on the spot. The Bible's a big book. What is the greatest commandment in the Bible? And they're waiting for thou shalt not kill, or thou shalt not commit adultery, or thou shalt not. And then Jesus busts out with a thou shalt. He says, thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength. That is the greatest commandment. So it stands to reason that if you don't do it, you have committed what? The greatest sin. Do you realize? Lack of love for Jesus spawns all other sins in the world. Come out of that thing. Wow. Paul nailed it in one sentence. A lack of love for Jesus is the factor of corruption in all Christian churches. It's the factor of corruption in all Christian churches. Some were in Corinth, and they weren't motivated by an interest in Christ or a seeking of Christ or an affection for Christ or a curiosity about Christ. They weren't motivated by Him at all. Nor were they confined, if you look at their behavior. Why were they there? This is a question that should be asked to Christian churches everywhere. Thousands of people file into meetings every single Sunday morning. Some are looking for dates. Some are hoping to sell life insurance. Some are just doing it because it's the decent, traditional Midwestern thing to do. Be careful. Because if that is so, and if you find yourself in those shoes, corruption will eventually bust out, break out, emerge from that lack.